This podcast is intended for mature audiences and is not considered appropriate for enjoyment in the workplace.
Listening to this podcast is cheaper than therapy, but also a shit ton less professional. Expect unfiltered opinions, safety rants, and the occasional heartfelt reminder you're not as mentally inadequate as you think. Well, probably. Did you know the construction industry loses more workers to suicide than to falls? Electrocutions, caught in incidents, and struck by fatalities combined? Think about that for a second. The hazards we train for every day, the ones covered in meetings, inspections, permits, and OSHA manuals, still aren't taking as many lives as the battles happening quietly inside people's minds. Behind the hard hats, steel toes, and tough attitudes, many workers are carrying stress, pain, isolation, exhaustion, and silence. Sometimes the most dangerous thing on a job site isn't what's hanging overhead, it's what someone is hiding inside.
Hey everybody, it's your favorite podcast host, or at least one of them in the coming future, Alan Wolford, and you're listening to Diary of a Bald Man. So thank you guys for joining us today. Not sure how we ended up on the dial, but make sure you keep turning that thing up, on occasion, changing the volume, changing the settings, tune in, sit down, shut up, and enjoy the show. So as always, let's talk about how the week's been. We've had a lot of good responses, some that were a little critical, to the previous shows, because they were looking for things that might be uplifting or might have been more in tune with trying to fit in on a Monday or Tuesday vibe. And hopefully we get that point where, you listen to it every day and say, hey, this makes sense to me, or it makes sense in a very, I don't want to say minor, because some of the stuff I've seen kind of subjective and people just respond in different ways, right? Whatever's going on in your environment. So in my environment, we've been working on a new construction project. We got the bridges set. We got grading going on. We've got the big, what we call the yellow buffalo out roaming, scraping. These are belly scrapers, big fucking pieces of equipment going to flatten out properties so we could do the roads, so the secondary bridge. Just so much going on. And I was excited because, when you do a greenfield site, you have to tear down to build up. You have to remove the grass, the trees. You have to get the deer and the turkeys and everybody else to go to their new subdivisions and their new locations. And so it's a little disheartening at times, but a lot of it is a feeling of, hey, we're getting ready to put boots on the ground and do amazing things. So took videos of the belly scrapers going through and doing their thing, and went to reach out to Tony Reyes, one of my oldest friends we didn't grow up together, but when I was working in Alaska, he was working part-time with a construction company up there. Then he went into, I think, working by himself for a short period of time, then went out to work in the oil and gas fields, and just an amazing dude. One of the things I really, really liked, as with most Latinos in construction, they had a lot of knowledge and, maybe some experience in a lot of different areas. Well, with Tony, he started out carpentry with his dad. Then he went to building frames for concrete. And then that led into other things. Just an amazing dude. And every time I'd fly into Anchorage, we'd try to meet up once or twice to go to Taco King over there on Spenard, over by the airport, or we'd go to Moose's Pizza. So he loves heavy construction. He loves heavy equipment. So I was trying to send the video of the belly scrapers, doing their thing, going out, being in the wild, send it to other friends as well, and they'd say, oh my God, it's kind of like the Lion King, Simba going through, marking their domain. And, so we're getting feedback, I'm getting feedback from a variety of friends in different industries going, man, I miss that kind of work, seeing the greenfield site, seeing it build up, watching the grounds be leveled to form the frames and stuff that Tony and them did. So I texted him, sent the video, no response. And because of the time difference, over in Alaska, I figured, okay, it's 8 o'clock here. So that means it's about 5 o'clock there in the morning, AM 0500. And so I went through the day And unlike him, I didn't hear by lunchtime, so I figured maybe he's on the job. He's out in the field. Because, working where you're going out and repairing pipeline, or he may have been hot-shotting materials out to a crew that were rebuilding something. You just never know. So it goes past, we're doing this, things are doing great. Hear from other people, and just kind of forgot about Tony. Maybe 18, 19 hours later, his son has his phone. I didn't know it was his son at first. And he said, Papa's passed away. And so I text back immediately because I didn't know of any bad health or issues that he had. And I'm like, who's this? And it was Junior. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know he was sick. He hadn't said anything. I know he had some issues with his back from when he was a rod buster tying rebar together. Things I thought were like minor injury, muscular, skeletal and all. And he took a screenshot and sent it to me of a text he sent to Junior and his brothers saying, I'm tired of the pain. And I'm tired of the distance. I love you. Goodbye. That shook me to my core. Because at first I thought, goodbye, he was going to be going on to another trip. Maybe going back overseas, working on a rig somewhere in Southeast Asia. Maybe in, the Middle East. I don't know. But it was the way it was texted, and you could see the typos were his typos, no autocorrect. But the goodbye made it solid. They said when they found him that the self-inflicted gunshot wound made it evident because of the materials found and the way they were found and the way it was investigated. It was not a robbery. It was not anything but what it sounded to be. He was tired, and he said goodbye. And when we come back, I'm going to discuss how the whole 1 man a minute that I've been publishing daily, has really come into fruition. It's not to raise money. It's not a charity. It's not like the 22 a day that are for the veterans. This is for the global community. If you look it up, on average, 1 male commits suicide every single minute. Now, as I'm recording this podcast, currently we're at 6 minutes and 50 plus seconds. That's 6 of our brothers already gone in that short period of time that I've been speaking. And as I continue to speak, every minute passes by, we've lost another brother or sister. 1 man a minute. And we'll get into this episode 1 more minute when we come back. Don't go away.
Did you know nearly half of construction workers say they feel ashamed to talk about mental health at work? And more than a third say they were judged, treated differently, or looked at as weak after speaking up. In an industry built on toughness, long hours, travel, layoffs, pressure, and providing for others, many workers learn to stay quiet even when they're falling apart inside. Some spend weeks or months away from family, living in hotels, campers, or remote job sites, surrounded by people every day, yet still feeling completely alone. We tell people to report unsafe conditions, but many still feel unsafe reporting what's happening inside their own mind. And that silence is costing lives.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Alan Wolford, and again, you're listening to the Diary of a Bald Man. And today's episode is probably going to hit a little bit different. We try to talk about things to help build us up individually, vitamins, supplements, environments, things like that. Not politics, no fake motivation, none of that rise and grind millionaire bullshit from somebody selling supplements or real estate options out of a rented studio or aircraft and how you can succeed in 30 minutes. It's just a real conversation. Because the truth is, worldwide, as I said earlier, men are dying at the rate that should terrify us. Every minute, that passes by, one man dies. So think about that. By the time this episode is over, dozens of families somewhere in the world will get a phone call they never saw coming. Or, later on, when the individual's found, and they say, just like I did with Tony, where's he at? Didn't think about it for a while. Time went past, a few days go past. Coworkers probably missing him, but not checking in for the simple fact, well, maybe he took a day off. Not wanting to interfere with his personal time and say, hey, I'll see him when he comes in. Or we think about things, but then we get caught up with work and daily life. And before anybody tunes out because the topic feels heavy, stay with me, because this isn't going to be an episode about hopelessness. It's going to be about pressure, exhaustion, isolation, and maybe, just maybe, why some of us forget while we're allowed to be human too. You know what's wild? A lot of men are surrounded by great people and still feel completely invisible. You go to a construction site, you got different crafts, you got different trades, you got different organizations. You could be out there with 400 workers, sitting in a break trailer, or standing at a family barbecue, laughing with coworkers, sitting beside your wife, scrolling social media with thousands of friends, some real, some just acquaintances, and still feel absolutely alone. And that's everybody. That's the part we don't talk enough about, because men are taught early in life, don't complain, come up with solutions. Don't cry. Just build it up and, let that fury help guide you forward or into a positive thing. Don't burden other people because they got their own shit to deal with. Produce results, provide for your family, protect those around you, and keep your ass moving. After years of doing that, somewhere along the line, a lot of men stop asking, how am I doing? Am I improving myself so I continue to do this for my family, for my friends, or for my coworkers? And that's a dangerous place, especially for construction workers, veterans, first responders, truck drivers. I mean, think about it. Farmers, healthcare workers, people that go home alone a lot of times at the end of the day, or they travel alone. The healthcare workers, middle-aged men, divorced men, retired men, men who lost purpose, men who lost identity, men who got so used to surviving they forgot what living even feels like. And this affects men and women. So, for those who are like, well, women have suicidal thoughts and things too. Absolutely. But, when we look at, again, the national and global stuff, research it. Don't just take my word for it. It is one man a minute. A lot of women keep going because they have something that they can say is their purpose. Their children, their parents, their siblings, where men just feel isolated and burn out. Like Tony. He had hidden pains, and I say hidden because it's not like he had a cast or, some type of splint on his emotional thing that we could see, or that you could see in other men. You just never know. Did you know, speaking of knowledge, research continues to show that men are significantly less likely to seek mental health support, even while we're experiencing high levels of stress, depression, exhaustion, and self-imposed isolation. And sometimes the reason it's self-imposed isolation is just to get rid of the noise. I'm not talking about tinnitus, but, people going, hey, man, can you help me out with this? Hey, man, I see you've worked all day, but I need help fixing my truck. And you just get bombarded with other requests. So many men will wait until a crisis point before speaking up. Not because they don't care, but because they were raised believing silence was strength. Because if you could hold it in, you're going to be able to surpass this. But we don't know how much they're holding in. What is the PSI on emotions? Where's the pressure relief valve? For me, it's verbal, right? I speak up, I say, fuck this, kiss my ass, things of that nature. I vent. I'm a ginger. It comes naturally. But the strongest thing a man can do is finally admit he's tired, verbally. And then pause. And maybe checking on somebody doesn't need to sound complicated. It's as simple as, hey, brother, you all right? The same thing I always do when I don't hear from Tony, when I don't hear from, the guys that I worked with for years. And so sometimes, again, we don't want to reach out for the simple fact maybe they've had a hard day. Maybe their wife and them are not getting along right now. I don't want to add to that burden. So we put our own brakes on instead of allowing our pressure relief valve to blow and let it get out of us. A lot of men do not actually want to die. When we talk about one man a minute, they just want relief. And like Tony, he was hurting. He was tired of hurting. The idea that he put in himself was to stop it, right? Nobody's going to call and check on him from now on. I probably will. I may text him, as I do. I know his son's got his phone now. But I know in talking with Junior, they'll probably shut it off after they make notifications to everybody that's on that phone that he is now deceased. How do you do that? How do you reach out to people? Some that's going to be complete strangers. It's going to be people that, Tony worked with or provided services to or provided other things to. And here I am on a non-emotional device, and I'm saying, hey, Papa's gone. Tony's gone. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to find somebody else. And that receiver is going to have questions. They may find out that Tony passed away. They may find out that he did it on his own turn. Didn't let for Mother Nature or God or anybody else step in and say, have a heart attack, die from high blood sugar, God bless you, got hit by a fucking elk. It's shit like that. So now their minds are going to play into things. Their minds are going to wonder, who do I talk to when, the pipe is busted or I have a spill or the D6 is down, things like that. But when we think about why somebody's gone or why somebody's thinking about being gone, they want the pressure, the noise, the expectations, financial fear, shame, loneliness, and constant mental grinding to stop. And when somebody carries that quietly long enough, their brain starts lying to them. Hey, you're a burden. You failed. Nobody cares. They'd be better off without you. And I can't imagine somebody thinking that, but I know that they do, because it's like you're struggling to get work. You're struggling to find your next job. Excuse me. You may be struggling to get in with a group that you want to work with as a subcontractor. That's happened. Tony has relayed to me numerous times when he had problems getting in with the new group because he was unknown. So, of course, he's got photos of work done. He's got references, things like that. But people are hesitant to say, okay, yeah, I know this team. I remember that project, but I don't know you. So they think to themselves, I'm worthless. That they're better off without my services, without my work. And that voice is a fucking liar. But when somebody's exhausted long enough, that lie starts sounding reasonable because it fits that mental footprint, right? This toe here, this toe here. Yeah, I can stand on that. That is my base. That feels truly like it's me. And brothers and sisters, I've seen it firsthand. Military, construction, emergency response. Men sitting in trucks after work, staring at the steering wheel for 20, 30 minutes before going inside because they're already mentally smoked. And I can tell you from experience, when we built U.S. Nitrogen, the long hours, the trying to work with so many different contractors, traveling in the distance, and I don't want to say ruminating, but it is ruminating, but you're spinning the wheel saying, hey, when should I have turned left in this conversation? What should I have done a little bit different instead of lighting that guy up for fall protection and sending him home for 5 days? Now he's going to be impacted financially. How's that going to affect his mood? How's that going to affect his family? So we carry a lot of loads, both males and females. But, it gets to the point where men start drinking themselves numb, as I did, because silence is louder than whiskey. And it just stopped the noise. A lot of guys joking nonstop because humor is the only pressure relief valve they've got left. I will listen to Ian Bagg all day long. I will listen to others. Because if we align humor, dark humor, with the feelings we got going, it kind of justifies some of it. And then we can turn it into something funny we talk about with the next guy. But some of the funniest people are carrying the heaviest loads. Look at all the famous comedians that died, or died by suicide, specifically. John Candy, didn't he die by suicide? Robin Williams, didn't he die by suicide? People that are always trying to give humor and laughter to others are carrying some of the strongest weight and burdens and mental anguish that you and I can only imagine. You know, there are a great many of them out there. They're now gone. I think one of the biggest lies many of us were taught is this. If you need help, you are weak, right? And I'm an older and mature person, so I can't lift what I used to. We're talking about physical weight. But what about emotional weight? When my PAD came around, I felt insufficient. I was like, how am I going to walk? How am I going to provide for my wife and for the family and for the dogs and, the IRS? Because that tax money keeps them going. Well, when they say if you need help, you're weak, it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. You know what takes strength? Strength is saying, I'm not doing okay. I have a day that I don't know that I can finish. Because that takes guts. You're allowing your emotions, you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable to the response of others. And people today are snippety motherfuckers and bitches, right? Because now they have a control. You came to them with emotion. You came to them with weakness. Now they have the ability to either pry your soul apart or help rebuild the structures for you to keep going. That takes guts, for them to do that. Especially for men who spent decades being everybody else's support beam. Some of us became emotional forklifts because we have to carry family problems, financial pressure, sick parents, work stress, marriages, injuries, memories, grief, regrets, siblings and others just disassociating with the family because they weren't getting noticed or they weren't getting the accolades that they thought they so much justified, being, I don't want to say worshipped, but that's the way some of them are. You can see it. And then they act surprised when the hydraulic system finally blows apart and you're putting foot to their ass. And then you just disassociate. Fuck them. You can't carry the load for everybody and then put yours on the ground in order to support others. Lift your needs first. Both men and women. But I'm talking to the men because now we are 13 minutes and 50 seconds into the verbal portion of the show. And that's 13 more men that we've lost. Just sitting here talking to one another. Brother, people are not machines, and no amount of toughness could change biology. Sleep deprivation affects the brain. Stress affects the body. Isolation, even though self-inflicted, affects the nervous system. We need that time when we're in a community thing. We need that time to just see and people watch and then laugh and chuckle about the little shit we see. So again, isolation affects the nervous system, but trauma affects memory. Burnout changes personality, and that's not weakness. That's just being human. Did you know that long-term stress and emotional isolation affects sleep, blood pressure, concentration, mood, memory, and even physical pain levels? So what do we do when that happens? We go to the doctor. We're given a prescription. So now we have prescriptions on top of our day, and you've seen those videos. Well, this may cause you diarrhea, death, jaundice, may discolor your eyes, may just destroy your total internal system, your colon. Now you've got to have, all this other shit done. And that's just the side effects for a gummy. You may test positive for this. You may test negative. You start listening to country music. The body and mind were never designed to carry nonstop pressure forever. And now you're modifying it through chemistry, through alcohol. Jesus Christ. You want to know something I've learned? Sometimes it's not a giant dream that keeps people alive. It's the small things, really small things. My cup of coffee first thing in the morning, sitting with my wife, Dog losing its shit because you walk through the door, as our dogs do. Some song my wife found that we listened to 35, 40 years ago. The smell of barbecues that we do on the weekends with the Traeger, getting the chicken on, or like last night doing the ribs. My wife laughing at something stupid I said or did for the 8th time today. Or a friend or a colleague or an acquaintance sending a random meme or shit talk message on the phone that just makes you shake your head. There's days we like quiet mornings, but other times we want a good rainstorm. We want that beating and pounding because it feels like it washes away, some of our stress, anger, angst. It helps to feel useful again. Helping somebody younger avoid the mistakes we made. Sometimes survival comes down to these tiny anchors. That helps us dig our way, one claw, one hook, one fingernail at a time. Keep moving forward. Again, not giant motivational speeches or Instagram videos keep us moving. It's just these small anchors. I feel good because I have purpose. I can get through today because I have purpose. Tomorrow's purpose is me. Getting up, having the coffee, sitting with the wife, petting those fucking dogs, feeding the cat, going out and checking on my garden. Remember, you have purpose. You have purpose. And every minute that you sit there and think, I have nothing, if you're having that conversation with yourself, go to somebody else. Because they may be having that same conversation. It's like, I felt like shit today, but I knew my day would be better just talking to you. You don't have to tell them that you're feeling suicidal. Because they'll say, I'm feeling the same thing. Or I have this. So that gives you a new purpose. You're talking another individual out of a bad day. So you just repurposed one another by just saying, hey, how you doing? You want to go get a beer? You want to go get a Coke? You want to go get an ice cream? Communication. Start a conversation. And I think we also need to get better at seeing people. Because you have to communicate with someone. You need to go see them. Not just looking at them, but actually seeing them. Do you see the stress in their eyes? Are their shoulders rolled forward? Is there somebody at work that is now suddenly isolated? Especially the quiet ones. Do you find a coworker who stopped joking or stopped laughing or stopped, doing the things they did normally? The older guys who suddenly withdraw when before they were constantly out there. It shows on Instagram and TikTok, people were showing, this was my dad, this was my brother. 4 days ago at a Christmas party, or 6 days ago at a birthday party, or us cutting up in the swimming pool. And now they're gone. Those are the people we miss. The strong ones that never ask for help. The family members that were joyful just a few days ago. But when you looked at the eyes in the videos, you could tell that they were somewhat broken or somewhat distant. It's in the eyes. And I tell my wife all the time when she's hurting, when she's sick. I can tell because it's in the eyes. Because I actually look at her. A lot of times we're doing the same thing in and out. And when we're looking at someone, they look functional right up until the moment they collapse emotionally. And listen, you don't have to be a fucking therapist to care about somebody. You just have to be somebody that would want to do the things that you'd want done for you if you got to that point. So again, most people, all we need is conversation, honesty, listening without judgment, and without trying to fix anything. Just listen. Somebody noticing they disappeared, like Tony, and somebody saying, you matter to me. Look, that's a lot to cover. That's a lot of messages trying to get out. Not trying to raise money, but trying to raise awareness. And if you're listening to this right now, and you're mentally exhausted, emotionally cooked, spiritually worn out, brother, you are not alone. You're not weak because you're tired. And maybe healing is not becoming some perfect version of yourself. Maybe healing is simply realizing you deserve to stay alive long enough to enjoy your own goddamn life. And there are still good things out there. Still good people. Lots of purpose. Still moments worth staying and doing for it. And if today is heavy, then let this episode be a reminder. Stay. One more conversation, maybe with your neighbor, talk to somebody face to face. Get one more laugh, one more sunrise, one more minute. And if somebody crosses your mind after hearing this episode, call them, text them, check on them, especially the quiet ones. You don't see a lot of people posting on social media because one man a minute is too goddamn much. This is Alan Woodford. I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this process. And remember, it only takes a moment to help someone make another minute. God bless you. God keep you. Get the fuck out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Call me if you need me. God bless.
Step by step, I've walked 100 miles and I still ain't sure just what I'm trying so hard to find. The night seems longer and the wind blows louder when you wandered so far from home. If I cross your mind, say a prayer, I'll find my way and get off of this lonely road.
Can you hear me? Tell me, can you hear me? I've been calling out for help, still don't see nobody near me. I'm down and almost underground and so deep in the valley, I can't even tell you which way is the mountain. God, the only word I got, I could probably plant a garden, all this dirt I got. Trail of broken hearts behind me from the hurt I bought. Sometimes I really start to wonder if I deserve my spot. Cause I'm just a man who's got blood all on his hands. But does a humble sinner still deserve a chance? Hey, say a prayer for me, I think you would advance.
Step by step, I walked 100 miles and I still ain't sure just what I'm trying so hard to find.
Let's go.
The night seems longer and the wind blows louder when you wandered so far from home. If I cross your mind, say a prayer, I'll find my way and get off of this lonely road.
Off of this lonely road, off of this lonely road, off of this lonely road, off of this lonely road.
Get off of this lonely road.
Would you catch me? Tell me, would you catch me if I told you I was sorry? Could I fall into your blessing? Would you wrap your arms around me? Never drown me. If I walk towards the light, could I tell them that you found me? God, the only help I got. I know some people plotting on me, probably thought I'd rot. Praying for my downfall, wanna take my spot. Guess I deserve it, all the evil came out my heart. But I'm just a man who's got blood all on his hands. But does a humble sinner still deserve a chance? Hey, take me up, I pray to God I never
Step
land.
by step, I've walked 100 miles and I still ain't sure just what I'm trying so hard to find. The night seems longer and the wind blows louder when you wandered so far from home. If I cross your mind, say a prayer, I'll find my way and get off of this lonely road.
Off of this lonely road, off of this lonely road, off of this lonely road, off of this lonely
Get
road.
off of this lonely road. And get off of this lonely road.
Alan Woodford has produced this podcast for entertainment purposes. Neither this nor any other podcast he produced constitute legal, medical, marital, sexual, or professional advice. The opinions and views presented by Alan are his own and do not reflect the views or opinions of employers, clients, family, Facebook groupies, promotional sponsors, or baby Jesus. Any health information shared or mentioned as an alternative does not create any patient-physician relationship or other professional relationship between the audience and the presenters. No person listening to any podcast from this rocket surgeon should act or refrain from acting based on the content of a podcast without first seeking appropriate professional advice and or counseling. Nor shall the information be used to substitute for professional advice and counseling. As stated earlier, this show is for entertainment purposes, not how to lead or change your life. Do what is best for you or what your spouse approves of. Alan Woodford and all guests of the show expressly disclaim all liability relating to any actions taken or not taken based on any and all contents of this site.